how is Newcastle treating you? Have you had a good time? How long have you been here? You've just flown up straight away?
Yeah, we've been here. I got here last night. I haven't been up here for ages, but it's a lovely place. Everyone's been. It's a very warm welcome. So thank you. It's very nice to meet everyone.
I feel like I'm hogging the microphone.
Oh no! Well, I'll just let you hold it there. Yeah, I came in last night as well, and then I'm back tonight, back to London. So I feel like I'm not going to get to experience much. But next time I come back, where would you recommend if you had like an hour in Newcastle?
The Newcastle on a Saturday night will open your eyes. I'm not seeing any more.
Last night I opened my eyes. I got off the train and was like, oh wow, it is really happening up here. This is amazing.
Yes. You want to try it on New Year's Eve where the girls aren't wearing anything and it's snowing?
Sure.
Believe me, that's what happens, yeah. So, we all are impacted in our lives by Doctor Who. I think we've all got our own doctor, would you agree? Everybody here, we're all old enough to have our own doctor. Mine was Tom Baker. I was just too old for John Pertwee, but mine was Tom Baker, one of the best in my opinion. I love Tom Baker. What was yours when you were growing up? What was your, experience of Doctor Who as a child? Because it was on. Did you watch it? Were you familiar with it?
I didn't really watch it. It was one of those. It wasn't really on that much when I was a kid. I remember seeing a few episodes of Sylvester McCoy's one, but I think I was too young to really appreciate it. And the only person I remembered it from it was Sophie Aldred's character, and I got very excited when I met her for the first time. But yes, it wasn't really on, but I was very excited when it came back to be in it, which was, Yeah.
It's one of those jobs where you don't...
Well, it's
you just say, is it Doctor Who I'm going to be in? Wow.
It's part of the kind of national site. It's part of our kind of cultural history. So you kind of, even if you've not really seen that much of it, you feel that you know so much about it. So, I feel like it's kind of born into all of us.
And yourselves?
I was also a deprived child who, because it wasn't on when I was a kid. There was those couple of years, weren't there, in the middle. So it was missing from my childhood, but I really remember when Billy came back with Chris Eccleston. And I feel like, I have to say, I was on set the day Matt did the scene with Tom Baker, and me and Stephen went round the side to watch them doing the scene together and improvise together. So I kind of feel like that's my stolen, deprived child moment.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So,
thank you. I am a little bit older, so I watched Sylvester McCoy, and then remember it going off air, and then was in that bit of time where there wasn't any Doctor Who about, and then I remember when I got the job, I said to Julie Gardner, because I felt like I didn't know enough about the job to do the job. I was like, do I need to go back and watch do I need to, like it was a chore? But also it suddenly felt like it might have been homework. And she was like, it's not a prerequisite to have watched every single episode in order to do the job. But I suddenly felt, because you guys all know so much, that it was just a whole nother world. But then that's the beauty of it. I think each time it reinvents and comes back, it's like a whole new entity again and again and again, isn't it?
It's quite nice not having seen too much of it before you're in something as well, because I think there's always a danger if you really get into something and then you get a job on that thing that you really like, that you're going to feel nervous about doing it or embarrassed or too excited and embarrass yourself, which happens anyway, but it's good to kind of stop those things from happening as much as possible. So not having seen too much of it means that you can kind of go into it fresh and do your own thing with it rather than feel the pressure of kind of 50 years of television history.
Yeah, I was going to say that about the pressure being a national institution that we all know and most of us have grown up with, or everybody knows at least, don't we? So what was it like as actors? I always like to find out a little bit about actors on stage and working with other people and the dynamic between the two. You're working with people like Peter Capaldi, David Tennant, Olivia Coleman you've worked with. As a young actor, do you find yourself drawing on them because, the experience that they've got in front of the camera when you're on set?
I think what's really fun about the role of the doctor in particular, and I think with the different doctors and actors that you end up working with, is like there's such a theatre, like there's such a theatrical element to that part, like it's kind of heightened in genre and so I really enjoyed. I just remember from my first kind of even audition with Matt, I was like, oh my god, he's like a tornado, but in like the best possible way. I felt kind of so exhilarated. I remember walking out and I had to like go walk around and I was like, oh no, this is going to be really fun, because there's a lot of jobs that you can get which is a lot like you walk and you're quite restricted and you have to stand on marks, and whereas this isn't. It's like all about kind of spontaneity, and I think that's what you really get from working with the actors who play the doctors.
Yourself, Freema?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I definitely, because David comes from a theatrical background as well and is just so full of beans all day long. The shoot could be as long as you like and he would just be vibrating still to the very end. And it wasn't, but also I will shout out the guests that came on the show as well, were always so brilliant and so because it's quite tough, I think, when you come in as a guest on any job that you maybe have 3 or 4 scenes in order to tell a story in quite a steep arc. So you've got to either hit an emotional point or, you are the kind of storyline, so you've got to express something in a very heightened kind of way. And I would stand there amazed sometimes. I'd look at people and be like, that's incredible skill. So I felt like I was learning and watching and growing every day, as we do, I think, as actors. There's always more to learn, isn't there?
I think the whole thing was a massive learning experience, and I think we're all. You get to work with so many different. We got to work with so many different people on it, and I think we just learned from everyone. But for me, it was the first thing that I'd done that was like a long-running thing, and that in itself was a huge learning curve, because so much of acting is just about relaxing and trying to be in the moment and not just not being nervous about what you're doing and being present. And having a kind of long storyline allows you to just turn up for work and be there and do it and not have to worry about it. But you're right, all those people that come in are really amazing. You just learn so much from them.
I want to speak about the writers because I was lucky enough a few years back at the Edinburgh TV Festival to meet Russell T Davies. Has anybody met Russell T Davies in the room? Yes. Believe me, the first thing you do when you see him is you go, okay, he's a big man. He's a huge man, but he's like a gentle giant. He's so warm and friendly. But what was it like when you first met him and Stephen? I think they're both writing geniuses, to be fair. What was it like when you first met them?
I was just such a nervous man when I started that job. I met Stephen on I don't think I met Stephen until the read-through. And then we got on a train together. which is lovely, but also I was like, just don't embarrass yourself, you've got a 3-hour train journey. And he was absolutely wonderful, but I was just terrified of embarrassing myself in front of him. But he's just such a warm, brilliant writer, lovely man, and he's just very generous, and we kind of have a very lovely friendship now, which is great.
Yourselves?
My only interaction with Russell T Davies is that we share the same birthday.
Oh, there's
so
lots
we
of
message
Doctor
each
Who
other every
birthdays this year.
birthday.
Yeah. That's
there's
great.
so many April birthdays in Doctor Who, it seems.
Or people who share, me and Jodie have the same birthday.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
What is it?
Like
There's
star
2 of
sign.
every birthday. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do like a kind of a crossword like birthday.
Do you do a
Doctor
joint
Who.
birthday party with Russell?
We don't do a
No.
joint birthday party, but we message each other very early on the 27th
That's nice.
of April.
Mine's Ant McPartland. I mean, what? You couldn't make that up, could you? Yourself, Freema, as well.
So when I was auditioning for it, I've told this story before, but I went up on the train with Andy Pryor, who is the casting director, and and it was Valentine's Day, and we were on the train, and then we wanted to go and get something to eat when we got to Cardiff, and of course it's Valentine's Day, so everything was all done with hearts and flowers and roses, and we sat across from each other in some random restaurant. And they just kept bringing us things like for the happy couple. And we're like, no, yeah. Like, no, we're not. Oh, forget it. Okay, yeah, we are. And then went to the hotel the next day, and I did. Then David was the next person I met. So I didn't meet Russell until later on.
God.
Oh my God.
Chariots arrived. Hello.
Just started walking across the street. I've got to go do photo ops.
You look amazing.
I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Beautiful.
He'll be back tomorrow. We'll have the Torchwood panel tomorrow with Gareth tomorrow afternoon. So let me describe to us that first feeling on set. You walk on set, you've read the script, you've kind of got a background of the character you're going to play. What's it like walking on that set, the TARDIS and those iconic scenes? They are iconic sets, aren't they, really? What's it like walking on as a young actor and an actress in that situation on a programme like Doctor Who?
Well, I don't know if this is the answer. Once you've got the job and you do the work and you learn the lines and you work out what you're doing, it's kind of like any other. In a lot of ways, you're just kind of going there to do your job and you turn up to try and do the best that you can do on that day, and it all gets broken down into little tiny moments that you're concentrating on. And you're kind of, you're focused. And I think if you start thinking about the history of it or what it represents or what it means, then it's not going to help you at all to do your job properly. And I was very lucky because me and Matt had worked together before, and me and Karen hit it off straight away. And so what I was really pleased about was that it was a very happy, fun. We just had loads of fun on day one. I think I was a bit too excited. I fell asleep. I drank too much coffee, and then I fell asleep on set in between takes, which Matt found hilarious. But I think I just expended all my energy in building up to it, and then fell asleep in front of everyone, which was good. But yeah, it just became really easy because we had a really lovely relationship and we're really excited about working with each other.
Yourselves?
I was just really glad that we didn't start airing until the whole season was shot, because I remember realizing afterwards, when you sort of see the whirlwind happening, I thought, gosh, if I actually had been filming while all this was going on, it might have affected me, but I felt like we were doing it in a bubble. It just felt like a private little bubble where we were just on this little set doing our thing, and then it goes out and you sort of, the scale of it, I was aware of the scale of it after it went out. But while I was doing it, it just felt, as you say, they're moments and they're days in themselves that have incredible sort of encounters, and I don't know, it's hard to describe. Every so often I would stand on the TARDIS and go, can't believe I'm here. But then otherwise it was a job.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because you know the scale of what the scale of it's going to be, but in reality, you're in a quarry in Cardiff in the rain, and you're going, well, I'm just trying to stay warm and find a sandwich.
Television sets are really small.
Yeah.
They look big on telly, everyone, but when you get on them, they're tiny. Yeah. They're absolutely tiny. And yourself, Jenna?
Well, I had a funny one because I came in mid-season. So on my first day, Arthur and Karen were still shooting, and then I was shooting Asylum of the Daleks, but separate to, like you guys were on. Like we did a double unit.
Room, yeah.
We were kept in different rooms. Matt came to do a read-through with me of the scenes, but then went to shoot with Arthur and Karen, which meant I did Asylum of the Daleks just talking to a green circle. So I was like, oh, oh, this is what it's going to be like. I forget. Because I'd never done that before, that whole kind of like pretending someone's in front of you and it's either a tennis ball or it's a green sheet that you need to pretend is a massive monster. So it was like day one of like, okay, this is what Doctor Who is like. You're on a spaceship and you talk to green pieces of cloth, like on day one. And also I'd worked for like, the TARDIS was still being built because obviously it was mid-season. So the TARDIS that was mine and Matt's TARDIS wasn't built yet. So I think I shot for months before I had the kind of the TARDIS moment. And you could see it was like kind of kept under covers for ages. And it was like, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Before we could get in there. So it was kind of all like a little bit more back to front in that way.
What about, I mean, this dynamic between cast members? I always like to touch on the fact that it you know, we forget about the people behind the scenes sometimes. And when you leave a program, when you leave a stage show or something, you do miss the people that you've worked with, because just like people working in an office, it's the same thing. You don't sometimes see them for the rest of your life, don't you? And it's you're leaving a family behind in most cases.
Yeah, very much so with Doctor Who as well. I mean, there's some of the crew members on Doctor Who have been there for since the start. So yeah, I think you feel the family element a lot more there. Who was it? Bob. And he used to sing Magic Moments.
Oh,
he used
great.
to whistle Magic Moments at 3:00 every day. And I'd be like, oh, I'm going to please stop that. It's the most catchy song in the world.
Well, also the crew were half Welsh, half Brummie, which was just great. It was they're just such lovely people. Yeah. It's funny when you do a job, because it is like you form a family and you everyone's with each other all the time. And we went and filmed together in Croatia and Utah and all the other places we went to, and were a lot in Cardiff. But we knew each other really, really well. And you go, oh, we're all going to stay in touch, and then you leave and you never see anyone ever again. It's really weird. But actually, I'd say I see more people from my time on Doctor Who than almost any other job I've done, because it was so intense and because we all kind of went through that big collective experience together.
And yourself, Freema, finally, just on that?
Well, yeah, and also, I don't know if it was the same with you lot, but were you all living in Who Towers? Or was that... Yeah. So we all were living in the same block as well. So you'd see each other in the lobby, out by the shops.
Yeah.
I'd see Russell in the supermarket all the time.
I lived above the Bar Cwtch and could see the little Tesco's from my thing. So I could see, I was like, oh yeah, Matt's going to Tesco's, I'll pop down.
Can you imagine if that happened up here?
Yeah.
We couldn't do it up here, could we? We couldn't do it up here. Impossible. You'd be hounded, absolutely hounded. Let's go to those characters of yours, and the first time you saw those characters on that script, the read-through. What was that like? What did you get? Did you feel a sense of backstory there as an actor? Did you put anything of yourself into those characters when you first saw them? What did you think of the characters when you first saw them in the read-through?
I like this double look. Yeah. I've probably kind of mythologized this a little too much, but I feel like the script I got was such a dummy script for the audition. There was all the names were changed. There were no, all the monster names were changed, and it was sometimes when you're an actor, you want as much information as possible to go, right, well, I've got a lot of decisions to make, and I need to work out who this person is. And I felt for one of the first times there was just loads of freedom to do, because there was hardly any information. I was like, well, I've got to go in and do something. So I just went and made a really bold choice. And it meant that I felt like, and I was quite a nervous young actor. I'd not really done that much TV before. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be nervous, I'm just going to make him really nervous. And that will cover it. And it really worked. And kind of as he gained in confidence, I gained in confidence. And I think that's one of the reasons I have such a kind of fondness for looking back on that time, because it felt like a real kind of rite of passage and such a massive learning curve for my own confidence as an actor on a show like this.
So did you find yourself going through a journey personally as well as a character?
100%, yeah.
Yourself, Freema?
Well, I didn't know that I was auditioning for Doctor Who because Torchwood. So I got, and my agent got an email through saying they're casting a new spin-off to Doctor Who, and it's called Torchwood, and they would like to see me for one of the new characters in that show. So I got sent, and they said, and we don't have any script for it yet either. So can she read episode 1 of season 1 Doctor Who called Rose.
Wow.
Learn those audition speeches. So I was like, yeah, sure. And then I don't know what the other material was, but it was never Martha stuff. I didn't know that. Then what happened? Oh yeah. It was before I went up on the train with Andy Pryor. That's when I got told it's actually for Doctor Who. Billy's going to be leaving. You're being seen for the new companion, and you're going to go and do a chemistry test with David now. And I was like, ugh. But I was like, actually, I'm glad I didn't know any of that in advance, because I probably would have overthought it and been like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? As opposed to like what you just said, don't think of what anyone has done or the context of it. You just have to bring you to it. And I guess if they buy it, then you just do more of the same.
I remember I was auditioning for a project called Men on Waves. So
Men on Waves?
Men on Waves.
I'd love to see that show.
It's an anagram for Woman 7.
Oh.
So I was like turned up at the BBC, the basement of the BBC, like, I'm here for Men on Waves. But also I was auditioning to play a Victorian Mary Poppins-esque governess. And then I think that's what it was. And then we had I think I had like 2 or 3 meetings, and I was like, these guys don't know what they want.
That's
because
right.
then they brought me in to play different characters. So I was like, they just can't work out what they want the next companion to be. So when I got the part, initially I was going to be a Victorian governess for the whole series. And then they were like, nah, you're from Lancashire. Contemporary. I was like, what? So then it was like a different, Stephen had obviously kind of plotted putting me in Asylum of the Daleks, and then kind of worked backwards in like the genius way that he does through the arc of series 7.
I think, should we open the floor to some questions? Yes, let's have some questions from our lovely audience. This gentleman over here, sir, would you like to ask a question to our panel?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hi, sorry. So, just a quick question for all 3 of you, really. What's sort of your favourite episode from each of your time in Doctor Who?
For each of our own times?
Yes, so like yours would be Matt, Freema would be David, Arthur would be Matt again.
Oh, who's your favourite Doctor?
Yeah.
Or episode?
Episode, sorry.
Episode.
Yes.
For me, it's the Snowman. Because, I mean, it was just like Victoria. I mean, it was such a magical kind of episode. And I feel like imagery-wise, there was so many iconic spiral staircase, TARDIS on a cloud. It was like a real kind of romantic Dickensian fairy tale / sci-fi adventure. My favourite of your guys is Vincent and the Doctor. Ugh, love that episode.
Oh, thank you, baby. I was talking to people about this earlier. We were going through the episodes, and mine keeps changing because it would depend on who I was working with, what the set design was, what the script was. But I think if I had to pick one, it would be the Shakespeare Code, because we got to film in the Globe, and then we were doing a night shoot. So we had it to ourselves all through the night, and we'd just be running around, and people were like, it's haunted, let's go and see if we can find any ghosts. And just, it was kind of magical because I hadn't done any stage really. So to actually be stood on that stage while shooting Doctor Who, I kind of felt like a lot of ambition moments were happening at the same time.
I like in terms of watching it. I've not watched it for so long. Like again, Vincent and the Doctor, I think is one of the most beautifully written, perfect bits of television. I think like that kind of sums up the magic of what Doctor Who can do. But to do in a similar way, we went and filmed on Stonehenge for those for the Roman stuff, and to be able to I don't know why I drove myself from London to Stonehenge, and I was probably late and missed the train. But I drove up and it was pitch black, but then all those film lights were just pointed at Stonehenge, kind of pointing my way, and I was like, oh wow, this is really amazing. And those episodes with all the Roman stuff felt like we were shooting a big action movie from the 80s, and I was like, this is exactly where I want to be and what I want to be doing. So yeah, that was it.
It's gentleman in the middle there. Is it? Oh, sorry, somebody else? Oh,
Hiya.
yes, sorry.
When I was 8, I went to the Doctor Who experience in Cardiff, and I dressed up as Clara. So, Jenna, I wanted to know, what was your favourite costume for the Born to Save the Doctor montage?
Born to Save the Doctor montage. Yeah. That was where I was inserted, right, into all of the...
Yeah.
Those pictures pop up on my phone so much. I really liked... there was like the 70s one with the suede...
Yeah, that's my favourite.
Is that with the suede waistcoat? And I also... There was like... Then we went 60s and we put the fringe on. I can't even believe I remember this, but you get those things where it's like Cardiff reel, and I've still got... It's like the same things on my phone. And the 60s one I thought was really cool because that felt like very like the very beginning of Doctor Who. If I was basically a companion at that time, that's how we would have looked.
That's great, thank you.
Can you pass it forward? Thank you.
This one's for Freema. You basically came in on season 3, like after The Runaway Bride, after Catherine Tate. If you had to film the 3-parter episode with the Master in, would you have that as a film rather than a 3-parter episode?
Would I have liked to have done that as a film?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I've not done much film, so I feel like what you just said there for a second, the scale of some of the episodes would make my head spin sometimes. I think, I don't know what the budget would have been per episode, but honestly, some days I'd get to work and feel like we could have been on a huge movie set. There was so many moving parts to it, and
until you see the tea and biscuit table.
Until you see the tea and biscuits. So it was. I kind of enjoyed it for the way it was. Has there been a... Oh, there was one, Paul McGann, wasn't there? That's the only film. Where was that? When? 96. So maybe there's space for a new Doctor Who movie, I'm thinking.
I'd like to see a really bad, like, American version of it with, like, a really, like, buff Doctor Who.
Yeah!
I'd like to see them ruin it. Because I think it would be funny and not get what it is. I'm traveling in space and time. I'm going to save your life from aliens.
There's a little... Oh, sorry. Got somebody else?
Thank you for your question.
Yeah. There's a little girl over there. Where is she?
I'm really enjoying the journey of the microphone for this.
I think she's had a photo taken with you today.
This is a great track.
She's over there in the middle.
Right down to the little girl.
She's got a lovely little outfit on.
There she is. She's been amazing all day.
What's your favourite monster?
What's your favourite monster?
My favourite monster was the Silence. Because they were terrifying, but the guy who was inside the costume, Marnix, was the most exuberant, amazing, hilarious man, and it really played at odds with who he was playing. It was great.
I always forget the name, and they were only in one episode. Is it I want to say the Shadow Men. It was the guys who were like dressed, and they would look like jazz, and they had white tights on their faces, basically. Is it the Shadow Men? The Whisper Men. Similar. The Whisper Men. I found them really creepy because anything that is trying to chase you but does it very slowly and also with a bit of style. I just found it so creepy. And also the tights were quite creepy as well over the face.
Freema?
I'm going to go with the Weeping Angels. Because
big reaction.
Oh my God, they were just shocking. And actually, similarly, Arthur again, because in a lot of the movement people inside those costumes were dancers, because obviously the angels had to move quite suddenly and quite quickly, and they were all fantastic. And then, of course, no one's going to be de-rigging them during lunch, so to see them drifting through set, trying to go and get their chips, was always just a bit like, don't look at me. But and I remember reading that episode. We were on a night shoot for that, actually, and it was probably 3:00 in the morning, and it was we were in the middle of nowhere in trailers, and I was reading that episode, and then someone came and banged on the door for me to go to set, and I absolutely flew out of my skin, and I thought, this is probably going to be quite a tricky episode for people to watch, and I can't believe how many young kids can actually... Have you seen that? Have you seen the one with the weeping angels? Are you not scared out of your mind? Good for you.
You know, when I was a kid, I don't know if anybody who watched Doctor Who in the 70s.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh.
Sorry, I realised there's loads of people behind the
Looks
curtain.
so rude.
Who watched Doctor Who in the 70s? Yeah, yes. Well, yeah, well, we used to call it behind the sofa television.
Yeah.
Didn't they? Because the creatures, there was nothing like it on telly, and you'd watch it behind the sofa because the creatures were that scary.
I do. It was also my favourite thing as well when like the monsters take their hats off and are like,
great.
"What are you having for lunch?"
Yeah,
You know, like, always that contrast. You're like, "This is too good."
Watching people with prosthetic fingers on, just being like, or eating through straws.
All the little voices coming through the Dalek grills.
Yeah,
Just, and you're like, where'd it come from?
Get me out.
Get me.
It was always funny working with the Weeping Angels because often it was like real statues, and then sometimes it was people in costume, and you didn't know which was which. So you'd be standing next to something that you thought was a statue, and then they'd suddenly go, "You're right," and you go, "Oh God, it's horrible." It's terrifying.
There's a gentleman up the top there.
Jenna, what was your favourite item of clothing to wear, and who was your favourite doctor to wear with?
You can't throw in an easy question and then like slide that one behind. I would say my favourite piece of costume was the egg whisk on my belt in episode 1. It was a strong start, and I always say my favourite doctor is David Tennant, so then you don't get in trouble with Peter and Matt.
Why did you leave Doctor Who for?
Say again?
Why did you leave Doctor Who in 2012 for?
Because I had to leave at some point. I mean, I really did my time. I could not have possibly stayed any longer.
Right, we'll have one more. Can we have one more? There's a gentleman in the middle there with a cap on, just in the middle of that. We'll have one more.
You know the drill, guys. Down you go.
Hi there. This one's... I wanted to call you Rory, but that's not your name.
It's all right. People do. I was working with a director the other day who said, "Okay, now Rory." I was like, he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed." I was like, you've shown your true colours there. Good.
We're big Rory and Amy fans in our house.
Thank you.
Absolutely love that relationship from the start all the way through to where you finished it. But Rory keeps dying, like, a lot.
Yeah.
Did you know every time that you were going to come back, or was it all a surprise?
No, luckily they made it very clear that I was going to come back. But I didn't necessarily believe, because the first time it happened, I was like, okay, is this... They were like, oh, no, you'll be back. But we haven't got a script yet. I was like, oh, okay, good, no worries. And then I just ended up really reveling in it. It was really, it's quite it's a weird thing pretending to die, because let's bring it down. It's going to happen to all of us. And so having to do that again and again and again was an interesting challenge. But yes, I always did know that I was coming back, which was very nice.
Can I just finish off by asking a question? As actors, you're in the early years of your careers. Is there anything you can take away from that Doctor Who experience that really stood you in good stead for later, either on stage, obviously, as well, and in television and film? Is there anything you could take away from it that you took from that growing as an actor? It's these in-depth questions. I make them up.
Arthur?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard talking about acting, like, and what it like. It's yeah, but yeah. There was lots to take away. Just you learn from everything you do. And I've said this already, I suppose, but like for me, it was just the confidence of being able to do it, and to turn up and do the job and not just be terrified. I learned so much, and you do. We continue to learn on everything you do with everyone you work with. But it was a huge learning experience.
And yourselves, ladies?
The same, really. You kind of can't, being on set every single day for one series is what, 9-10 months?
Yeah.
So again, you kind of go into, was that me? You kind of go into you get out of that conscious part of your brain and you go into more I don't know, you're just you're up and you're rolling. And then also I think with something like Doctor Who, every single episode, every 2 weeks, you're in a different genre, you've got different actors, you've got a different director. So you've got this turnover rate in a way. So I think you're almost probably learning more than you're even aware of, if that makes any sense. And again, I think just that growth period as an actor, just being on a set all of the time, you're always learning.
I suppose you can go from something like Doctor Who, you can go from Dickensian times to Roman times to Egyptian times to anything, really, can't you? Any time scale.
I tell you what, as well, just working with the people, we were all really lucky with the doctors that we worked with, because they're such great. For me, Matt is such a great leader of a company or of a show. And you turn up and he's worked his arse off and he knows what he's doing and he can be playful. And it was really, I only kind of realised this in hindsight, working on other things with people who were less well behaved, that all that stuff's really important, and to take that stuff really seriously as well. And just it was really nice to have that example of someone who just is there and realises what everyone's role is and treats everyone equally. And, that was really
finally, Freema, from you?
I would, echo all of that. It was, we shot 11-day fortnights, and it was, they were long shoots, long days. I was living in London, so I would get driven home through the night, and then you see your people, and then you get driven back, and then you're just straight back into the machine. And I think I really learned, you've got to learn how to pace yourself, how to take care of yourself, because you can get really excited and you get invited to loads of parties and loads of events. And I remember David saying to me quite early, because we got invited to everything, I was like, yeah, let's just go and go and go. And he went, and it was such sage advice, and he was like, you've always got to remember you're kind of always on, even when you're off, because the turnover is so quick. The expectation on you, and not expectation, but you kind of are representing in a way. So you kind of, all of it, professionalism, how to take care of yourself, how to form new family when you go on a job, because you might be not just out of your city, but out of your country. And you've got to learn how to take home with you and how to feel comfortable where you are, so that you can turn up and be the best version of yourself when you get to work.
It's mentally tiring, I think. I come from a background of shopping TV, so I've 4 hours of talking about selling things.
Do you? I'm
telly.
Fascinated by shopping TV.
Shopping TV for years. So it is. It's mentally tiring when you're in front of a camera, and
yeah,
especially on
I
live
bet.
television.
That is a job. How long did you do that for? Can we interview
10 years.
Wow.
That's a long time. Too long. I was worn out by the end. Oh no, you put me on the spot now. Thank you. It's been a wonderful Q&A. It's been wonderful, hasn't it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Have you?
Thank you very much.
Please show your appreciation for Arthur, Freema and Jenna.